What's going on, everyone? Welcome into the Fantasy Alarm MLB DFS live show here. We got James Grande as always, and I'm filling in here. They're calling up me from the minor leagues. My name is Dan Servodidio. If you guys aren't aware, Howard and Pemba are not able to go today, but yeah, we're talking MLB DFS main slate Monday here. James, how you doing, man?
Doing good. You're like, did you see the Pirates called up that 33-year-old Servo? He's been a 13-year minor league vet.
Yeah,
Finally got the
I've been
call.
around. I've just been waiting
13-year
for my
minor league
chance,
vet. Yeah, finally got the call to the big leagues. I'm proud of you. Happy to, it's funny. I saw his original team was the Pirates, and then just finds his way 13 years later back to the Pirates. I saw him hugging some guys. And here you are, Servo, back on the big stage 13 years later. Host, I'm
I'm here.
happy to have you here. Howard, host of the Fantasy Alarm Show over on XM at 6 tonight. So after us, you can tune in there. So, perfect transition into that. And then John, I've talked about it a couple times. We don't know if he has made it back from Las Vegas. He was at his bachelor party there. Nobody's heard from him. So like John could be lost. He could have stolen a tiger. Like nobody knows. Hopefully the latter, that would be a great story, but hopefully, I don't think John would have as much success with a tiger as those in Hangover did.
Yeah, having a bachelor party in Las Vegas is definitely a bold move. Give props to him though. Oh yeah, hopefully he's alive and well right now. We'll see tomorrow, I guess. Right?
We'll see
Tomorrow's
tomorrow,
the
right?
day.
Yep.
If we don't hear from him, then I might be back here tomorrow.
Right.
Um, yeah, so yeah, we're talking MLB DFS main slate here. Starting up at 7:07 p.m. Eastern time tonight is the main one on DraftKings and FanDuel. And if you're watching here, you can see the screen here, the screen share here that we'll be going through top plays at all the positions. As always, get your questions in on the chat here. YouTube or Twitter, wherever you're watching, just get your questions in Discord, and we'll be answering them throughout. James has always got the top notch advice here. Before we get into this, we got to touch on this Aaron Rodgers story. By the way, if you guys are just joining here, and you're probably aware, Aaron Rodgers trade official to the New York Jets. The pick swap in the first round this year. Picks other picks included here, but really interesting. I mean, initial reactions, Grande. This is fantasy baseball, MLB DFS here, but I mean, this is a big story here.
I mean, the Jets were pretty good without good quarterback play last year. So,
Yeah,
barring Brees Hall's return to good health and all the weapons they've added in the last 2 seasons, including Lazard this offseason, I like it. I think Aaron Rodgers is a good fit there. We'll see how long he lasts in New York, but I do like the fit.
sweet. Yeah, and by the way, it's NFL Draft Week, and you can learn about the top rookies and follow all the storylines on Better Sports Network. Listen every day for rookie profiles and rankings, NFL team needs, mock drafts, and more, plus the best odds and strategies to bet on the NFL draft. Be sure to join us for live coverage of the draft on Thursday and Friday night on Better Sports Network app, bettersports.com, streaming at Better Network. I know I'll be joining a little bit there, giving some draft takes and analysis there. So definitely join us all for that. Let's just dive into this main slate here, James. MLB weather report is a little light today. I don't think there's anything major, right? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there's chilly temperatures to watch, in Minnesota, but that's about it. There's no rain, right?
No, nothing to worry about. But it can it just let up in Minnesota? These poor people. Like it was snowing last week in the
Yeah, well,
forecast. I mean, dude. Like I feel like who, it. I'm sure it's for some people. People like snow. People like cold weather. But like, you won't catch me in almost May in 40-degree weather. I'll tell you that much.
yeah, right. I'm here in Virginia, and it's like at night it gets down to about 45 right now. Like it's been cold like the last couple of nights and this week. So, but yeah, during the day, prime like possible snow conditions. I'm
No, no shot.
out.
No shot.
Um, yeah. So let's get into the pitchers here. Top pitchers. I mean, Spencer Strider, obviously the top guy, most expensive on DraftKings, and the Braves are the top favorite. I think it's like minus 275 on the slate tonight.
Yep.
Where are you going with your pitching? Is it Strider and then everybody else in a second tier? You looking to fade Strider? What are you doing here?
Yeah, you nailed it. It's Spencer Strider, and then it's everybody else, and like we'll talk about it, but pitching drops off a cliff very fast. And the Strider thing, Atlanta in general, opened at minus 227, has ballooned to minus 275 everywhere. So like everyone betting Braves money line everywhere. Everyone believes in the Braves, and they should, because the Marlins offense has not given us any reason to think otherwise. They haven't struck out as much as they have in years past. They are striking out at a 24% clip, and Strider can strike out opponents with the best of them. But like 22nd in OPS this year against right-handed pitching, this 23rd again in WOBA against righty. So like Strider is the clear-cut favorite for me, even at 10-9. Nine or more. I mean, 9 strikeouts in 4 straight starts. I was going to say 9 or more, but it's just 9 in 4 straight
Yeah,
starts.
yeah.
Love the pitch count. Love everything about Strider. He's my SP1. He's my cash game plug, and in tournaments as well.
Yeah, not much. Yeah, I mean that strikeout streak is ridiculous from
Yep.
him. I mean, you obviously expect it to stop at some point, but I mean the Marlins lineup doesn't scare me too much.
Yep.
Just looking at it. And by the way, if you're looking at strikeout props and stuff like that, I think it might have gone up, but it was like 8.5 earlier today. So if you're looking to go over on that one, um, other pitchers, top pitchers, so your SP2 on DraftKings. Montgomery and Gray are the next highest priced here. Minnesota's a decent sized favorite over the Yankees, I saw, and St. Louis gets to, Montgomery gets to play this Giants offense that strikes out a ton. So are you looking to get one of these high priced guys with Strider, or who's your top, I guess, SP2 here?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on your roster construction. You can definitely get to Montgomery if you'd like. I mean, you teased it, but San Francisco strikes out a boatload against left-handed pitching. 30.9%. That's second in the league, and they have a sizable, plate appearance sample. So it's not like it's just this small sample size. San Francisco's bad against lefties. They thrive against right-handed pitching. So I do like Montgomery. It's funny because Montgomery had been so good leading into that start in Arizona, and John was like, Arizona is just like better than what they've been. And sure enough, like he just gave them fits, or Arizona gave Montgomery fits. The other 3 matchups he hasn't had a problem with. I don't think San Francisco is going to be. So 9,500 is a good price for him. He's going to get up to 100 pitches. Like pitch count's not a worry. Sonny Gray, I'm a little worried about, and not because I think the Yankees offense has been great, and not that to say Sonny Gray hasn't been, because he has been awesome. But there's been 2 of the 4 starts where Sonny Gray is just like topped out at 80 pitches or so. And like the White Sox start, there was no reason for it. He wasn't in any trouble. He didn't come out for the 6th inning. There was no like weather impact. Like they just chose not to send him out there for the 6th inning. There's times where Sonny Gray walks a lot of batters. I mean, he already has 9 walks in 4 starts. That can drive up the pitch count. So like he's okay. He's going to be a little more contrarian, I think, than the other 2 guys. So if you want to get there, it's okay. Again, 40-degree weather obviously favors pitchers than it does hitters. Like it's hard to hit in cold temperature. So
Yeah.
if you're looking at it from that aspect, I don't dislike Gray. But I would safely put Strider and Montgomery ahead of him. But like obviously, if you want to get to Gray 9,300 in tournaments, I don't think many people are going to play him. I'm trying to pull up the ownership forecaster while I talk through it to make myself not look stupid, because I said Sonny Gray was going to be a contrarian option. But yeah, I think of the top 3 guys, he would be third. I actually like someone in the next tier quite a bit more than Sonny Gray.
Okay. Is it Edward Cabrera or someone in that range? Because we got Michael Rojas in the YouTube chat saying K prop for Edward Cabrera over 5.5 strikeouts. He likes that one. So is it him going up against Atlanta on the other side, maybe stacking pitching in that Atlanta game, or where are you going here? We got Lance Lynn, Alex Cobb, Chris Bassett, Brad Keller, I guess in that next tier, or I'll even throw Colin Ray in there.
It's not Edward Cabrera, so I think the strikeout prop is
Okay.
fine from a prop standpoint. The Braves do strike out against right-handed pitchers a lot, 26%. It's the third highest. Um, Obviously, the thing that we worry about with the Braves is the power. Their ISO is currently eighth in the league against righties, so they could get snake, or Edward Cabrera could get snake bit there. He also could get snake bit in the walks department. Edward Cabrera does not exactly have the best control. He has a lot of walks through 4 starts. I mean, he has 2 games of 6 or
Yeah.
more walks. So like, there's a lot of. I like Edward Cabrera, the prospect. Little worried about the spot. I actually like Chris Bassett quite a bit.
Okay.
He didn't look great in his debut, and that's obvious. 10 hits, nine earned, 4 home runs. Since then, he's done a very good job at limiting damage. He's cut down on the walks the last 2 starts, especially the last start. The strikeouts have been pretty consistent, 5+ in 3 straight starts. He's a pretty sizable favorite in terms of Vegas. I mean, no one is like other than Jose Suarez for whatever reason in the Angels and Spencer Strider. There
Yeah.
aren't like massive favorites on the board, but 155 minus 155 on the money line over on DraftKings Sportsbook. A little better in different places, like Caesars is minus 161, so you could get Bassett at bigger number there. The White Sox have a lot of questions without Tim Anderson. Like they're leading Luis Robert off, Benintendi hitting second, Andrew Vaughn profiles better against lefties. Eloy Jimenez has been good, but after Eloy Jimenez, their lineup is Grandal, who has been bad for a year and a half now, Jake Berger, who has done nothing but bust or hit a home run. So, more often than not, he's busting. Oscar Colas has not been the guy that I think White Sox fans has hoped for. And then Lynn Sosa and Elvis Andrus is rounding out their lineup. Like those are not a potent lineup after you get by Eloy. And even at the top, like Benintendi doesn't beat you with power, and Vaughn, again, profiles better against lefties. So I like Chris Bassett quite a bit here. I love the fact that he's coming off 3 straight quality starts. So if you're playing on FanDuel, you have that in your back pocket. I love the strikeouts have been there. And, spoiler alert, the Blue Jays are my favorite stack of the day. So I'm almost putting a win in my back pocket for Chris Bassett. So all that to say, I like Chris Bassett as my second favorite pitcher of the day, even ahead of Jordan Montgomery. But I also understand Jordan Montgomery's shown 35 fantasy point ceiling where Bassett hasn't yet. If that's the direction you want to go, but Bassett would be my guy in this range. Not a lot of DFS interest in Edward Cabrera, and I just said the Blue Jays are my favorite stack, so I won't be getting to much Lance Lynn on the flip side of that game.
Okay. Yeah. The Bassett, you mentioned he blew up in his first start, but since then he's been really good. And against Houston, that last outing, you can see on the screen 26 fantasy points on DraftKings. I mean, he had a really good out. I watched part of that game, and it was, a dangerous Houston offense, obviously. So,
Right.
Yeah. So, okay. And you mentioned the top favorites. Yeah. Like the Braves and the Angels. I mean, the Angels are playing the Royals. That's probably why they
Right.
are big favorites with even with Jose Suarez on the mound. But the Blue Jays are kind of next in line with the Twins. They're small favorites, but bigger than others. So if you're looking to target some of those pitchers, all right. What about some value pitchers? If you're looking to go a little cheaper with your SP2 or get a couple of these guys cheaper. I mean, you go Burrito or Matthew Boyd. By the way, I'll just shout out my underdog article up on Fantasy Alarm right now if you want to check that out. I kind of brought up his K prop, and it's one that I like tonight because he's playing a Milwaukee Brewers offense that strikes out a ton against lefties, especially over the past week or past 2 weeks. And the weird thing for them is they haven't faced a ton of lefty starting pitching. Only like a couple this year, but those starters are racking up like 9 strikeouts. One of them was Jordan Montgomery earlier this year. So Boyd, I mean, kind of really cheap for the upside for K's if you want. I mean, he's playing for a Detroit team on the road, so maybe you don't get the win there. But are you looking at Boyd or any of these other cheap starters?
Yeah, I actually don't hate that call. And it's not that I think Matt Boyd is like, he was pretty good at his peak. Like, he was a very good fifth, like every fifth day starter. And he hasn't been like, he only made a handful of starts last year, but he's looked okay this year. Like, there hasn't been any blowups. There's obviously been control issues that's like limited him. And that's why we haven't seen him go deep into games. But the pitch
Yeah.
count is on the rise, like 75, 76 his first two starts, up to 82 in start number 3. You mentioned the strikeout rate. And sometimes strikeouts like don't tell the whole tale. Like, sometimes teams strike out and still mash. No,
Hmm.
Milwaukee does not hit lefties at all. I mean, 29th in
Yeah.
OPS. They're 29th in ISO. They're 29th. I was before Woba loaded, 29th in Woba. Like, every statistic and every measurable that Milwaukee's offense matches up against with lefties is terrible. So yeah, I do like Matt Boyd. You mentioned the part about the win equity. That's obviously a worry. He needs to get through 5 innings to even have a chance. But I think this is a lineup that he could do so. Um, Now the walks are a thing. Like, they actually have a pretty good walk rate against lefties.
They do. I
Slightly
noticed. Yep.
slightly better than league average. So like, if there was a problem that I could see Boyd running into, it's just the pitch count again, just with the lack of control. So I like Boyd. Is he my favorite SB2? No, but he's definitely my player pool. Colin Ray is going to be in people's player pools because, I mean, let's face facts. Like, Detroit is just bad again. Like, whatever improvements they thought they've made and whatever prospects they thought they had, like Torkelson and Riley Green, they are not panning out thus far. Detroit against right-handed pitching, they're 25th in ISO, they're 29th in OPS. Like, it's another year where Detroit's going to be bad offensively. Colin Ray, look, John and I set up on this network twice that Colin Ray has been in the major leagues, and he hadn't pitched since 2016, or he's made 9 appearances since 2016, and we crapped on him and crapped on him again for the second, and he's been serviceable. Like, start number 1, he was great against the Padres. He had a blow up inning against Seattle, and the other 4 innings were really good. Like, he's been better than expected, and I don't think Detroit is the team to probably like crack the egg that's Colin Ray. So yeah, I think Colin Ray is fine. I think Matt Boyd's fine. I am not getting baited, and I think this is something people might do tonight. Getting baited by the Angels money line with the Jose Suarez
Yeah.
thing, because he has been horrible. And I know he's coming off a start where he only allowed 2 earned runs. He walked 6 Yankees in 3 1/3. Like, he has not made it out of the 5th inning. He's allowed 12 earned runs in 3 starts. He has bad control. There's nothing appealing about Jose Suarez. Don't fall. It's a trap for me. Like, anyone that wants to go to Jose Suarez, like, I understand because it's Oakland, but like, just looking at some ownership, he is projected to be one of the highest owned pitchers of the night, and I just don't understand it because, again, like, he does not profile as a good pitcher, and I get that Oakland is Oakland. They are, we know they're Oakland for now. They're soon to be Las Vegas.
Yeah.
But like, they're like, I think I prefer, honestly, when you look at like the landscape of the ownership and you see Jose Suarez that popular, I almost prefer using Oakland's offense to using Jose Suarez. And that's crazy to say because Oakland's offense has been so bad. But I think that's just the nature of the beast that, sometimes we're using ownership as kind of leverage. And that's where I stand today. Like, don't fall into that trap. I think it's a trap, and the ownership suggests people don't. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
I'm not going to touch Jose Suarez.
Yeah. No, I'm on board with that. I mean, I I would rather. I mean, it's risky. I'd rather play Tommy Henry, right?
Agreed.
For $800 less. against
Agreed.
a KC offense that's, arguably the worst in the league.
Yep.
So yeah, I feel you on that. And by the way, you're talking about the White Sox lineup and how non-scary it is, like for going up against Bassett. I was looking at the Detroit lineup, and it's like, you know, Riley Green obviously dangerous. They got a bunch of lefties, so I guess if you want to look at that split, and maybe that's risky for Colin Ray, but this offense is just not scary at all. I mean, Nick Maton hitting fourth and clean up, you know, like when you have Miggy still in there hitting seventh, I don't know. It's just not scary. And there's a number of times if you ever watch a Tigers game, and it's like they'd be lucky to hit one homer a game.
Right.
So yeah. All right. Well, there's your pitching here. Any other last thoughts on pitching before we go to position players?
The only thing with Henry, I'd say, and I like the price, obviously, like if you want to take a dart on 5K, that game is currently the one with the highest implied run total, 10.5, and that opened at 9.5. So a lot of people have bet it up, and Brad Keller's been good this year. I'll definitely give him his props, but like 10.5 using a pitcher, like I don't love that. Henry was not very good in his 9 appearances last year, and I know KC's been
Hmm.
pretty bad, but I'm probably going to personally stay away from pitching that game. But again, 10.5 run total suggests something could be brewing offensively there.
Yeah, and it's not like the Diamondbacks are significant favorites. They're only slight
No.
favorites, so they're Vegas expecting runs from both teams here. So yeah, both pitchers kind of risky there. All right, well, let's look at the pitching the hitters here. Go to catcher first. Top price catcher on DraftKings. You got Sean Murphy hitting cleanup for the Braves. Where are you looking at the top end of this? Are you looking to pay up for catcher here, or maybe looking further down?
Um, it's probably a spend down situation for me today. Like
Hmm.
usual, like if we have an elite catcher like in Coors or Great American, or there's Wind and Wrigley, like those are the situations where I would generally consider it. I don't I don't hate Salvador Perez like if I were to spend up on anyone. And that's primarily due to him profiling so good against left-handed pitchers. And it's a 10.5 total. Like last year, against lefties, 845 OPS, 509 slug, 230 ISO, 357 WOBA. Like everything looks good, surface level for Salvi against lefties. So if I were to go anywhere, it would be him. But I love a few guys below 4K, primarily Alejandro Kirk at 3,400, who has historically hit righties well. I mentioned I don't like Lance Lynn at all. Um, Righties and lefties both hit Lynn extremely hard this year. Lynn is, aging. He was very good at the time, and we kind of saw the decline last year, and it's really catching up to him this year. But righties have hit 302, 383 on base, 365 WOBA against him. Alejandro Kirk hitting fifth tonight, in a tremendous spot to produce multiple runs at 3,400. This guy who has looked good over his last 10 games. He was great for the Blue Jays last year, hit third every night, like, or fourth. Like, this is a very good hitting catcher. So I really
Yeah.
like Alejandro Kirk. Look, I mentioned I'd rather use Oakland's offense, and Shane Langoliers has been pretty dang good lately. Homered off Jacob DeGrom on Sunday, um, which is, a feat in itself, but he's hit 3 home runs over his last 10 games. He was a highly coveted prospect. Jose Suarez stinks. Like, I don't care what the money line says. Like, he does. I know he's a like, is he a major league pitcher? I don't know. Brady's hitting 390 against him with a almost 1100 OPS and a 468 WOBA. Like, this is listen, this is the one you're never going to hear more Oakland Athletic suggestions in your life, Servo, than you are tonight. And that's just how much I dislike Jose Suarez tonight, and I just don't understand the love. Like, I would go to Langoliers hitting in the middle of their lineup. But all that being said, if you're not infatuated with the Oakland A's like I am, I would just plug Gabriel Moreno in 2,700 and move on. Like, this is probably where I would go at catcher. He's been pretty good lately. Had Sunday off. Will be back in the lineup today. Before Sunday's pinch hit, He had back-to-back multi-hit games. Going into Sunday's game, he was the team leader in RBIs. Like, for a guy that we were kind of like, oh, off to a slow start, maybe he's not the hitter we thought he was. I mean, he is kind of that guy. Like, they shipped out Dalton Varsho in kind of like a surprise deal. Arizona did to get Moreno, and Lourdes Gurriel was like kind of not a throw in, but like more so this deal was meant for Moreno to shine, and he has been pretty good. So 2,700 in a 10.5 implied run total. Brad Keller, although he has been good, and I mentioned that, there are numbers peripherally suggesting that he's been kind of lucky. 60% ground ball rate is pretty insane. So if he doesn't have his A stuff, like, regression is likely to come. XFIP is way higher than his ERA against certain splits. So I like Moreno. He's probably my favorite catching play of the day. If I'm not paying up for Salvi or going Kirk or Langoliers.
Okay. Yeah, you mentioned looking at the Oakland offense here, and that game total, it's at 10 right now. I'm seeing,
Mhm.
just below the Royals Diamondbacks at 10.5. And yeah, obviously the Angels are the decent favorites there, but the
Right.
A's are going to score some runs against Suarez. It's not going to be all Ken Waldichuk giving up bombs, but yeah, the you mentioned Kirk, Groundall. You're looking at him at all because he's hitting fifth in the White Sox, but I guess you like Bassett, so you're kind of looking away from a guy like Grandal, right?
Yeah, I mean, I will give him a little more credit. I mean, he was lost last year, but he has been fairly decent. I mean, 845 OPS is nothing to scoff at, especially a switch hitting catcher. I don't dislike Grandal. Like, lefties do have success this year against Chris Bassett. 303 average, 453 WOBA against. Like, those are or 353 WOBA against. Like, those are big numbers. So I don't dislike Grandal. I just
Yeah,
prefer the other guys more. But if
yeah,
you're like, Bassett is going to be pretty highly owned as an SP2, even on FanDuel where he's on one pitcher sites. So if you want to be contrarian and use guys against him, by all means, that's essentially what I'm saying about Jose Suarez, right? Like, I'm talking Oakland because everyone's going to Jose Suarez, and I just don't understand it. Like, he's been bad. Lefties have hit Chris Bassett just fine. The White Sox just don't have many lefties in their lineup tonight. It's Grandal, it's
hmm
Benintendi, and that's it. So yeah, I mean, you can get to Grandal if you want 3,500. I do prefer the other three guys below him, but I
I
definitely
got
I
you.
definitely don't hate the idea of getting to
All right. Let's go over to first base here. And by the way, if you guys are watching, send in your questions, comments on props or DFS or anything. We'll definitely answer those and get to those throughout as they come in. Again, if we're previewing the main slate for DraftKings and FanDuel starting just after 7 Eastern. But there are games starting up at 6:10 Eastern, I think, is the first one in Cleveland. So if you got questions about bets or anything there, we're certainly happy to help. Let's go over to first base here. I love seeing Otani being first base eligible. It's
him.
just
It's
funny
so
to
funny.
me.
Yep.
Otani, obviously, this is a stacked position. Otani, Goldschmidt, Matt Olson, Vladdy, if you're looking to stack some Blue Jays, Rizzo. Are you looking to get one of these top end guys at first base here?
Yeah, so I also think it's very funny that Otani is a first baseman. Also, shout out to Better Boss in the chat. Matt, what's going on? Salute to you for stop by, showing some support. I think it's hilarious that Otani is here. Um, I would get there, but I just have my sights set on Vladdy Jr. tonight. Like, I told you, I'm all in on the Blue Jays. I think Lance Lynn looks terrible to start the year. The numbers suggest it. Righties, 365 WOBA, 302 average against them. It's even worse when we talk about lefties for the Blue for going up against Lance Lynn. But I talked about it on the Fantasy Alarm MLB DFS podcast with Howard Bender this morning that, like, Vladdy's just casually hitting 341, and it's just like nobody cares. Nobody cares. The guy's hitting 341. on his way to contend for another MVP, and it's just like, oh, that's what's expected of Vladdy, right? To hit 341, it's like that's insane, like I
Crazy.
don't know. So I love Vladdy here. I think he's my top spend at first. I do like that Otani has first base eligibility because like then you're not pigeonholed into using if you want to use Trout and if you wanted to use Renfro and if you wanted to use Ward, like you don't like you can use four of those guys together, right? Because you could use Otani at first, or
Yeah.
some mix and match of them. Because if you just have all four of them as the outfield, what are you going to do? Like you just can't you can't build your Oakland stack with all four of them. So I do like that fact, but it is funny because he doesn't play first base.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where it's like, all right, he's literally not played first base.
Right, right,
So
right, right.
all right, so that's the top end there. Yeah, Vladdy hitting the two hole too is a nice, anytime you get like a power hitter that's also can hit for
Hmm.
average, as you mentioned, that's hitting in the two hole against a guy like Lance Lynn, we'll
Yep.
take that. Are you, by the way, on Otani, and we could talk about this Trout too, I guess, but are you more inclined to play him now that they have him batting third? Or if they have him at second in the lineup, is that better or worse, I guess, for DFS?
I like him hitting third. I like him hitting
Yeah.
second. I just like I don't care if Otani was hitting ninth. Like I just would like using
Yeah.
Shohei Otani. Like it depends on like specific. Like in other instances, like if he was hitting seventh, that would be a little hard to get to because it wouldn't connect to like
Yeah.
if you wanted to use Mike Trout or hit like Rendon, Renfro, like that wouldn't connect to your stack as much. So I definitely like Otani hitting in the middle of that lineup for sure. Um,
Gotcha.
I am listen, I like this game quite a bit. If you listen to the Fantasy Alarm podcast this morning, Howard Bender was not on the Angels side of things as much as I was. They have a lot of dudes that hit lefties extremely well, like a lot. And Otani in the past has hit lefties really well. He hasn't thus far. But also Waldachuk has allowed 6 home runs to righties already in 3 starts. So like I'm perfectly fine using anyone from the Angels, which we're going to get to very shortly because there's a couple here at first base that we might talk about. So.
Oh, all right. Yeah, we got Gio Urshela and Brandy Drury right there. By the way, you mentioned Otani hitting seventh. We got Joey Gallo hitting seventh, but
We
and
do.
priced up here. So I doubt people are really playing him. And he's, obviously he's kind of most times home run or bust. And I don't know if many people will be going there, but yeah, I guess so. Urshela and Drury, are you looking at one of those guys in this mid range? And they have multiple position eligibility as well. So you could, I mean, if you play Otani, you could get one of these guys at shortstop or second base.
Yeah, so I understand Brennan Drury spent like half of his campaign in Great American Ballpark last year, and it was like his breakout, right? Like Brennan Drury hadn't been that guy for Toronto and pretty much everywhere he went until he goes to like the best hitting environment outside of course in the league. And then he gets traded and he was mediocre for San Diego. But the one thing that Brandon Drury did well, even in San Diego, Servo, was hit lefties. And
Yep.
he
Yep.
crushed lefties last year. So, like, I understand he's been really bad this year. And that was kind of what Howard was saying. Like, why are people so enamored with Brandon Drury suddenly after like one good season? And I understand it because that one good season came in the best hitting environment outside of course. But lefties were throwing beach balls to Brandon Drury last year. Not 626 slug, 955 OPS, 327 ISO, which is out of this world, 403 WOBA. Like he crushed lefties. So
Yeah.
I do like Brandon Drury for tournaments. He's in the lineup tonight, hitting sixth, which is a pretty good spot in the lineup that pairs with your, if you wanted to run a Trout Otani, Renfro, Drury, or Trout Otani, Rendon, Drury, like they give up a lot of like Waldachuk has given up a lot of power to righties, and Brandon Drury supplied it last year against lefties. So I like Drury quite a bit. Urshela not in the lineup tonight kind of surprises me because he has been pretty good against lefties. Also has the weirdest eligibility on DraftKings of all time, first shortstop. That's that's some like Red Sox using Bobby Dahlbach as their shortstop type eligibility. But yeah, I like Drury quite a bit, 36. I actually do also like Joey Gallo slightly for like a GPP
Okay.
because Johnny Brito, the last time he faced the Twins, that he couldn't get out of the first inning game. He gave up
Yeah,
like
you
three
got
home
rocked.
runs
Yeah.
and 7 earned. And Gallo has openly talked about how much he hates the Yankees and how much he hated his time in New York too. Not that like baseball is the hardest sport to have revenge in. I think like there's
Yeah.
no way to weight revenge in baseball because like it's just so hard to be good at. Um, so I like Gallo in tournaments, but I like Brennan Jury a little bit more at 3,600.
Okay. Gotcha there. The next range here, I mean, if you're looking at on DraftKings, the pricing wise, are you looking any cheaper than Brandon Drury there in like the 3K range, 2K range? Not a ton of cheap options here though at first base.
Like if so, I have a couple. Like if you're interested in that Arizona game and you're interested in the 10.5 total, I don't think we've gotten an Arizona lineup yet, have we? I don't see one. Like if Pavin Smith was in the lineup, he's been pretty good since being called up. Um,
Okay.
1100 OPS. He's only in the lineup against righties, but he's hit like third at times. He's hit fifth at times. I expect Corbin Carroll to hit third tonight, but like Pavin Smith should be in a pretty good run producing spot and has shown flashes of power. 5 of his 9 hits this year have been for extra bases. So I like Pavin Smith, 3,100. I'm gonna suggest another Oakland guy in Jesus Aguilar who hits lefties
Okay.
decently at 2,600. We saw him hitting third the other day. He actually hit a home run against the lefty on Saturday, I believe, at $2,600. I mentioned I just don't think highly of Jose Suarez. And then something that Howard and Bender and I talked about on the podcast this morning was Brandon Belt, who like had this long career in San Francisco where he was just like unlucky playing in such a bad hitting environment, but he was still putting up good numbers. And then he comes to this hitter's haven in Toronto where the walls are moved in. It's a great division everywhere to hit in other than the Trop. And now he's having his worst statistical year of his career. But there's been signs of life where he's hitting 2 of his last 4, where he has 2 extra base hits over that span. Um, so like I don't dislike Brennan Jury or Brennan Belt here at 2,200. Like obviously it stinks playing Brandon Belt because that means on DraftKings you're not playing Vladdy in a Blue Jay stack, right? Like you're essentially like, oh,
Yeah.
I'd rather play Brandon Belt than Vladimir Guerrero. But like if you feel strongly about a spend up in the outfield or you're double spending up at pitcher, I mean, Brandon Belt isn't the worst option. This year, Lance Lynn against lefties already allowed 4 home runs, 711 slug, 470 WOBA, 340 average against. Like lefties are killing him. So I do like Brandon Belt, 2,200 as a punt. Could be a way to differentiate from Vladdy. Could be a different way to be different in your Blue Jay stacks as well.
Yeah, I like that Belt call. And you mentioned so he's hitting sixth in the Blue Jays lineup tonight, right behind Kirk. And you mentioned you like Kirk. So if you wanted to do, and Matt Chapman's at 4. So if you wanted to do like a 4, 5, 6, or throw Whit Merrifield in there at 7, to get that back, that middle / back half of the Blue Jays stack. And by the way, Brandon Belt, 6 for 16 in his career against Lance Lynn. Hitting 375 there. No homers, but it's a pretty solid batting average for it's obviously a small sample size, but bigger than most. Just something to note, I guess, for 2 veteran players that have faced each other a decent amount of times.
Look, we have a chatter right there, Servo. Vlad Guerrero, number 1 spend up. I agree.
Okay.
I mean, look, I started the show by saying the Blue Jays are my favorite stack. I think he profiles incredibly well against Lance Lynn. I think everybody in this lineup has a chance to. I mean, Lance Lynn he's 37 years old. Like he's just on the decline of his career. It just happens. He's throwing flat cutters that are not cutting, and those leave the ballpark. And Vladdy leaves the ballpark with the best of them. So I agree. I if I were to make a home run call right now, it would be Vladimir Guerrero. Um, just saying, if you did want to be different, or if you're playing on FanDuel where you could play Vlad and Brandon Belt, that's a possible scenario you could play out.
Yeah, decent one there. Yeah, and by the way, the Blue Jays heading home after just a recent road trip at the
Right.
Yankees and Astros. So just back in that Toronto ballpark, and
Yep.
I think it's a little chillier in Toronto, so I think the roof's probably gonna be closed.
Yep.
So
For
a little
sure.
controlled hitting environment there, which is nice. All right, let's head over to second base here. Um, top guys, Estrada, Albies, Gleyber Torres. Are you looking at any of these top guys looking to pay down a little bit? You got Ketel Marte there against Brad Keller, Jorge Polanco against Brito if you want to go to the Twins, or Brandon Drury's there, second base eligible, so that's also an
Yeah, I think this position kind of stinks. Like up top, I don't necessarily like. I understand Estrada's been great. He homered on Sunday again. He's been awesome, but I don't feel great about getting to him at 55. Like he doesn't rank amongst the top spend ups for me.
Okay.
Ozzy Albies, I usually only play against left-handers. He's just historically been better hitting from the right side. I like Nolan Gorman for a home run, like GPPs. Alex Cobb hasn't been great against left-handed bats. 327 average allowed, 344 WOBA. So, you know, Cobb tends to struggle more with lefties. I like Gorman for a home run. Ketel Marte, if you're playing that game environment, sure. I love Jorge Polanco at 3,900. And I love it more that he's hitting third. He's looked really good since returning from injury. Like right out of the gate, 5 hits in his first 3 games, and right out of the gate, hitting third in his 4th game back. Like
Yeah.
that's pretty awesome. He didn't get to experience Johnny Brito last time, so he wants to join in on the fun. He said, "Hey, Skip, like let me hit third today, so I get in on the fun too." Yeah, I love Polanco. I think of like 39 and up, he's my favorite play at the position. You can obviously use Drury. I think Merrifield fits in the stacks. Luis Rengifo is interesting. Another guy who hit lefties extremely well a year ago. I think if you wanted to include him in your Angel stacks, you could. He's hitting 7th, so there's not like a ton of appeal, but he did hit lefties well. I think if there was like 2 guys down below I'd have interest in below 3K, Jordan Diaz has been hitting second for the Athletics, and he's looked really good. Hits in 4 straight games since being called up. 2 extra base hits. He scored runs in all 3. And again, just gonna keep mentioning it. Like the top half of Oakland's lineup is serviceable. That's all we need.
Yeah.
I'm not playing after 5. I think the top half could do enough damage to Jose Suarez where it just like kills off all that Jose Suarez love. Jordan Diaz is my spend down at second base. And then I'll give it a shout out to Kevin Biggio, and only in honor of John and Pemba, because for John, hopefully you're out there alive and well in Vegas somewhere. John always mentions Kevin Biggio when he's in the lineup, and every single time I'm like, no, dude, he stinks. But the last time he did, he hit a home run. We get a righty. Lance Lynn is really, really bad against lefties. So like the more lefties I can use against Lance Lynn, the better. So I'll give John some love here and shout out Kevin Biggio only in tournaments and in Blue Jay stacks.
Yeah, definitely a tournament play.
Yeah, hitting 111. He is not his father. I can tell you that.
Yeah, he's really interesting because he kind of, obviously entered the league with a lot of hype and was
Right.
good at first, but he really fell off the last
Yes,
year and a half.
Yes, he
Yeah.
sure did. He sure did.
By the way, it is NFL Draft Weekend. Fantasy Alarm has all the fantasy football and betting content you need to prepare for the draft in the upcoming season, featuring Britt Flynn's mock draft right now, rookie scouting reports, NFL team needs, player projections in our Discord chat, and much more. For a limited time, get the complete NFL package plus DFS playbooks for all sports, including MLB that we have out there right now, at an additional 20% off already discounted annual price with promo code NFL Draft at fantasyalarm.com. That's promo code NFL Draft at fantasyalarm.com. And just a shout out for myself, I have a couple of those scouting reports out there for some of the positions. If you're looking some of the top NFL draft prospects coming up on Thursday. Let's get back to the MLB DFS slate here, main slate. looking at third base now, top third base guys, obviously Austin Riley, Arenado, Matt Chapman hitting cleanup if you're looking for that Toronto stack that we've been talking about. Rendon against Waldichuk at the top there. Are you looking at any of these top guys for third base?
I mean, I hate to sound like a broken record, but I'm going right back to the Blue Jays here. Matt
Yep.
Chapman. Um, he has been like the typically forgotten man in Blue Jay stacks, and I know he got off to a very hot start and he's kind of cooled down, but the power for Chapman is always there. He's hitting in the middle of this lineup. Like everything makes sense going to him. There is a lot of power upside here, so I love him. Rendon is okay. I don't. So I think this is even worse than second base. I think third base is really hard to actually like a list of guys. Rendon fits because he has historically hit lefties well, but since all these injuries have piled up, he just hasn't looked the same, especially since leaving Washington. He just hasn't been the same
Yeah.
guy. So you can get there. 4,400 is not bad. Brian Anderson is someone who I really liked on the podcast this morning, coming off a double home run game. He's been good for Milwaukee. He's mostly done all of his damage against right-handed pitching, which worries me a little bit, but he's still in the advantageous spot in terms of the righty-lefty matchup. So I like Brian Anderson. I like the multi-position eligibility too. And then it's you could take a shot on Mike Brousseau, who has hit lefties historically well, if you aren't playing Matt Boyd. But the thing with Brousseau is, yeah, he's leading off for Milwaukee. He might not finish the game. He might get 2 at bats.
Yeah.
And if you don't have, he's just one of those platoon guys where he hits lefties so well, you want him to get as many at bats as he can. But if it's a close game and Brousseau's 0 for 2 in the 7th inning, he's not getting a third at bat, or they're going and a lefty's not on the mound, he's not getting a third at bat. So, if you think Brousseau can get it done in the first couple of bats against Matt Boyd, I'm okay going there. But unless you have something else at third, I think this is quite a weak position. That's why I'm just really getting to Matt Chapman, Brian Anderson, really.
Okay. Yeah. I like that. Yeah. And Chapman at 5,200 on DraftKings. I mean, just notably cheaper than like Austin Riley being the price king there at third base. So look, something to note there. Shortstop here. Bo Bichette. Are you paying up for Bo Bichette for that Toronto stack at 5,700 on DraftKings? Or maybe looking elsewhere. Correa going against Brito is pretty attractive. Bobby Witt is there at 5,100. Where are you going with this shortstop position?
Yeah, you can definitely get to Bichette. He is probably the one Blue Jay I'm a little hesitant to get to. Not because I don't think he can't go crazy, and it's not like he's just not casually hitting 330 this year either. But I like Chapman at a really weak position. I love Vladdy. He's my top spend of the day. So it's just hard to get Bichette when you're also using Spencer Strider like I think you should be, right? So you can go full Blue Jays and not use Spencer Strider, or you're basically stacking them with Oakland, right? Those are your options essentially. So I think you could definitely get to Bichette. I don't dislike that. Same thing can be said about Adames. He's hit really well in Milwaukee. He's hit really well since leaving Tropicana Field. He had that whole thing about he couldn't see in Tropicana, and now he can't believe how well he can see in Milwaukee. But he's always hit righties better, and we like Matt Boyd. Bobby Witt is kind of interesting because he is coming alive in a big way. Hits in 5 straight games, hitting 326 over his last 10 games, 6 extra base hits over that span, along with 3 stolen bases. So we're getting the full Bobby Witt, why he was a first round seasonal pick right now. So I like Bobby Witt. I like Correa 4,500. He homered against Brito in that last game. But, I like Tommy Edman hitting the way he's hitting the ball. I like Anthony Volpe hitting 3,800 leading off.
Yeah.
I don't dislike, if you want to punt the position, Zach Nato in the righty-lefty matchup, 2,700 against Waldichuk. He's starting to look a little better at the plate since being called up about 2 weeks ago. So another weak position, that I think there's a lot of interesting names, but no one I'm like gotta have. I think if I were to like lean on anyone, it would probably be Witt, Correa, Edman. Would probably be my three like favorite shortstops. With like, if you can get to Bichette, by all means get to Bichette, and if you want to play Volpe, leading off might get a hit, steal a base, and score a run, and then day is done. 10 fantasy points, like that'd be a solid day already. But another weak position, shortstop.
Okay, I got to ask you about Paul DeYoung because he's back for St. Louis here. Was activated on Sunday and had a homer yesterday. He's 2,000. I mean, mid price on DraftKings. I don't know if I've seen a St. Louis lineup here, but if he's starting, I'm not sure where he'd be in the lineup. But if he's starting, is that someone you're looking at?
Like, I get it, but how long are we gonna do this song and dance with Paul DeYoung? Like,
I
I
agree,
remember,
but people are going to see yesterday's performance and be like, "Oh, min price, I'm going to play him."
like, this is exactly what happened last year, where he got called up and he had these like scorching hot first week being back in the majors, and then a month later he was hitting 100 again, and we were like, oh, same old Paul DeYoung. Like, it's nothing changes. Yeah, he's 2K, and if and when he hits the baseball, he could hit a home run.
Yeah,
If he is in a decent spot in the lineup, sure. If you want to take a dart on him, sure. It's just one of those things. Like, Alex Cobb has been pretty good against right-handed bats, where he struggles against lefties. Righties just have a 319 WOBA against him. Not my favorite. Even though he's stone cold minimum. Like, if you like, this is difference between Fernando Tatis at 2K last week and Paul DeYoung at 2K.
yeah,
Like, I expect a zero. The other one, I'm like, oh, this guy. I mean, he's one of the best players in baseball. Why is he 2K?
yeah. And then Tatis, of course, he went like 0 for
Oh for
5 in his
yeah, oh
first
for
10.
5. Yep, awesome.
All right. On that note, we'll go over to outfield here. Where are you looking top outfielders here? I mean, Tani we already touched on, and we talked about Trout as well. But you got Trout there, Acuna going against Cabrera. If you want to go with the Atlanta stack that we haven't really touched on, but is always an option. Top wide outfielders here for you.
Yeah. So Cabrera is definitely worse against righties, which plays into the Acuna hand. And Acuna is just an absolute psychopath, dude. Like, he is. If he is on first, he is. You just might as well just put him on second. Like, there's no point in even letting this guy like touch first. Just it's like when you collect 200 when you Monopoly. Like, that's Acuna. Like, he's just passing go and just get it. Like, just start him on second. 7 stolen
Right.
bases in his last 10 games, 12 stolen bases already for a guy hitting 374. Like, yeah, I'm perfectly fine getting to this guy. 12 walks plays into the hand of Acuna as well. Like, if he walks twice in this game, could he have 4 stolen bases? Yeah, sure, he could. So I love Acuna. I mean, no problems getting to him at 65. I would say Trout is probably my second favorite outfielder up here.
Mhm.
Home runs in back-to-back games. He looks like Mike Trout,
Yeah.
aka like the best hitter on the planet. Hits in 5 straight, 4 of them being multi-hit games. Hits in 7 of his last 8 overall. The guy is unbelievable, and he gets an extremely hittable guy who's a lot of power away from his home ballpark. Like, Waldichuk's good start came in his home ballpark. So I like Trout, and then like the other 5K guy I like here, Hunter Renfroe, another guy who's crushed lefties this year. Double dong the other night, which we love. Hitting in the middle of this Angels lineup, like, again, I'm not going to suggest a game stack because that means you're playing Oakland, and I do think Oakland's in play, but like, you don't have to game stack. But like, Renfroe this year alone hitting 500 against lefties. Last year it was much of the same. The year before it's much of the same. Like, the guy just crushes lefties. The Angels are going to be one of those stacks that I think a lot of people get to. from what I'm seeing, it looks
Yeah.
like they're going to be the highest owned team of the night. They have the highest implied run total of the night. I can't tell you not to play either of these guys. They're obviously expensive. Like we mentioned, Otani was 5,700. Like if you wanted to use, I mean, they have four outfielders. If you throw Taylor Ward in the mix, that are $4,900 or more. So like the Angels are super expensive, and that's why also I think Brendan Drury could be someone in the mix of like including in that Angel stack. But I love all three of the Angels, all four of the outfielders for the Angels. Just Trout and Renfroe are my two favorite.
Okay. And I mentioned this earlier in the stream, but the fact that Trout is hitting second in front
Yep.
of Otani, who's at third, I like really like that for Trout for DFS because now he's
Yep.
got, I mean, obviously he's got more run chances now, but I think he's getting, I mean, he's been on fire. You mentioned home runs in back to back games, but I think he's might be getting some better pitches to hit, knowing,
Mhm.
pitchers knowing, all right, I got Otani up after him. And, obviously they're, you could say it's the other way around when Otami is hitting second and Trout third. It's kind of a nightmare situation for any pitcher, but
Yep.
I do like that for Trout more. All right, we got about a few minutes left here. If you guys got any last minute questions, we'll try to build a lineup here if possible. But let's get to the rest of outfielders here. If you're looking a little cheaper down the list here, where are you looking to go if you're not stacking some of these higher priced Angels?
Love Corbin Carroll, 4,400. Kid is just the real deal. Finally
Yeah.
happy to see his price not in the 3K range. It's been about a week now, and it's been a glorious week because he continues to pay it off. He has a ton of speed. He has power hitting in the middle of this lineup. The Diamondbacks have the second highest implied team total. Yep, second highest implied team total behind the Angels. We've already talked about that game environment being tremendous. Brad Keller, I think Brad Keller is due for regression. Like we're talking about a guy who doesn't strike people out. His ERA looks good, but xFIP of 4.5 against lefties, xFIP of 4.9 against righties, 194 BABIP. Like that's just such good luck. No batted ball, bad luck for Brad Keller. That's coming to an end here in this game environment. I like Corbin Carroll quite a bit. Dalton Varsho might be one of my favorite plays of the slate. This is like ultimate Dalton Varsho spot. Hit a home run on a cutter on Sunday. Lance Lynn throws a flat cutter. That's what Varsho is going to mash tonight. I could see him hitting a home run. I love Varsho 4K. I love some Oakland spend downs. Brent Rooker hitting fourth. Estory Ruiz hitting first is really cheap. Jake McCarthy for Arizona, if you want to round out the Arizona stack. Finally hit a home run on Sunday if you want to go there. So those are some of the other guys that I have interest in the outfield.
All right. Well, we are out of time here. Go check out the Fantasy on Discord chat if you haven't already, and Grande will be in there and others answering some questions for lineups. And we'll be back tomorrow. I don't know if I'll be back. We'll see if Jonathan Bemba's back from his trip, but I know James Grande will for sure be back. So tune in there. We appreciate everyone here watching, listening here. And go check out the MLB DFS playbook, value plays, and all that on the site. And on Better Sports Network, some bets too. Appreciate you guys all listening and watching. I'm Dan Servodidio here with James Grande, and we'll see you guys later.